President Trump issues an executive order declaring that NASA will operate as a national intelligence and security agency. Russia's September 19 addition of international Satanists to its blacklist of terrorists and extremists is more than coincidental, given recent Trump administration actions. Flying hovercraft technology fits the description of face peelers in Peru, where 7-foot-tall predator-like armored aliens on hoverpads attacked villages in 2023. The drones causing airport shutdowns in Scandanavia have similarities to the drones over US military facilities in late 2024 and early 2025. Tangible evidence that big tech gurus who met Donald Trump on September 4 have indeed defected to the White Hat's Earth Alliance side. Much speculation over why the US Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has summoned all US flag officers to the US Marine Corps Quantico Base in Virginia. Britain's Daily Mail did a story on Congressman Tim Burchett's claim that there are 5 to 6 underwater UFO bases, and my recent interview on Redacted. An AI-generated video featuring Donald Trump talking about Medbeds appeared on his Truth social media account and was then taken down. According to Professor Avi Loeb, the 1977 WOW signal, originally thought to be extraterrestrial in origin, came from roughly the same direction as the path taken by 3-Eye Atlas. These stories and more on Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review.
You're listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
Welcome to the October 4 edition of Exopolitics Today, the Week in Review. Now, later today, we are going to be doing the monthly briefing. And so in that, I'll be covering essentially the last 4 to 6 weeks of Week in Reviews. Now, today, given that I didn't do one last week, I was in Bimini swimming with dolphins on a retreat. I'm going to do an abbreviated version of the Week in Review, but it'll cover this week and last week. But that will be abbreviated because for those that want to attend the full monthly briefing today, you're going to get the whole 4 to 6 weeks of material presented to you. So what I will begin with is this story by President Trump issuing an executive order declaring that NASA will operate as a national intelligence and security agency going forward. And there's a number of reasons for this. The one that most legacy media went with was prevent a union-led collective bargaining in NASA to cut costs, or the reasons that I think are more likely to be the case is that make it easier to retaliate against NASA whistleblowers. So that's a way of maintaining secrecy, and C, more effectively hide NASA secrets concerning UFOs and extraterrestrial life from the public arena. So is this a move to really keep NASA shuttered up and not revealing a lot of the true history? That may indeed be the case. Now, here's a story that really is very intriguing given what I have been describing over the last month. That is that the Trump administration is going to war against international Satanists, or against Satanists with bases, underground facilities in the United States in major cities such as Washington, D.C. Now, this is one of the stories that I'm going to cover in depth in the monthly briefing later today. So I'm not going to say anything more about it now, but definitely it is something we need to keep in mind, because now Russia is openly going after the same people. Here is an interview I did with Daryl James, living with Taygetan extraterrestrials on a Solar Warden spacecraft and their home world. And so what Daryl James describes is something pretty unique, that his genetics were so valued by the Taygetans that he was kept with the Taygetan crew on a Solar Warden spacecraft. So there's a Solar Warden spacecraft. He says that he spent pretty close to 17 years on that Solar Warden spacecraft. What was it? I think it was the Curtis LeMay, if I recall correctly. Let me see if it's something we discussed in his description. Okay, so he spent 17 years on this in the Nimitz. Okay, it was named after a Navy admiral from the Second World War, Nimitz. So he spent 17 years on this Solar Warden spacecraft and the Taygetan homeworld of Era, and he claims that his genetics was so rare that he was able to breed with the Taygetans. So a lot of people find that hard to believe. It is a kind of challenging story to believe that he produced so many children. He claims to have produced 800 children with the Taygetans. But nevertheless, he says that happened over a 17-year period, and they really wanted his genetics because he had a genetics that included both, was it Lyrans and reptilians. So that's a very rare combination to have these Lyran and Draco genetics. And apparently this was something that the Taygetans wanted to really improve the quality of their race. So very interesting. Okay, this is some Star Trek humor, but because I'm going to be playing that in the week in the monthly briefing, I'll skip over it for now. Here is a personal flying device, and this is very interesting. Let me play it for you because it's very close to the description of these villagers who say that they were attacked by 7-foot-tall aliens on hovercraft or on craft very similar to what we are about to witness. So Timothy Alberino, I've interviewed him about the Amazon kidnappings and this particular incident. Okay, so there you see the craft flying around. Now, according to Timothy, based on his research, the people on these craft were probably secret space program personnel wearing an exoskeleton, and that's why they appear to be 7 foot tall. And they attacked the village, tried to create fear and so forth. So very interesting that this technology is released into the public sector. I mean, it's just using some kind of jet pad there, but you can be sure that this kind of open source technology is far inferior to what exists in the classified world. So very interesting, the existence of this kind of technology. Right, here's a new whistleblower His name is Deep Prasad, so obviously that's an Indian-sounding name, and he is a tech genius, and he says that things were pretty normal for him until one day a portal opened up in his room and 3 aliens walked out of it. So there's a kind of short segment here. It goes for 3.5 minutes, so that's a bit long. But maybe I'll just play the first minute or so and let's see what he has to say.
So this is 9:40 in the morning, and I'm in my room, just like sitting against my headboard and sending emails on my laptop. And I put down my laptop for just a second to pick up my phone. And as soon as I do that, I get this like, it's like I knew exactly what would happen next. That's the weirdest part. One of the weirdest parts about this is that I felt like I knew that I'm about to go through an experience, and I'm even going to call it an abduction because that's the best word that my brain can come up with. And then I realized that I couldn't even move, and I started freaking out because, like, when you lose full control of your body, your motor cortex, that's never happened to me before, like while being consciously awake and suddenly you just can't do anything. It was terrifying. I thought that I ran through a bunch of emotions. So like my mind was like running very quickly. I'm like, is this a seizure? Nope, doesn't look like it. I can still like move my eyes and stuff. I'm not convoluting or anything or convulsing. Am I dying? And so I scanned the room just with my eyes for like I did about 2 scans, and then by the time I get to my 3rd scan, I see this shimmering object. It's a white outline with like these big black eyes. And initially, like I thought like this can't be real.
Okay, so I mean, he goes on to describe 3 aliens walking out of this portal that appeared in his room and how that influenced his life. And he is a Canadian tech genius, and so he's making waves, but certainly very interesting to have someone who is very successful in the tech world openly admit that he's had a contact experience with 3 aliens. Right, here is a story in the Liberation Times, and that covers the airport shutdowns in Scandanavia that happened in September of this year. So we're talking just a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks, well, actually September 23rd, this story came out. And so the drones that caused the airport shutdowns in Scandinavia were very similar to the drones that appeared over US facilities in late 2024 and early 25. And it's likely that these are deep state drones trying to create a crisis where Russia is accused of violating NATO airspace, and that there's probably similarities to what happened in the US in 2024, early 2025, when there were these waves of drones coming out of the ocean, flying over military facilities. And that happened because there were a lot of UFO sightings, and releasing these artificial drones, I believe, was a way of covering up the fact that extraterrestrials were revealing themselves in these flyovers. So I think that's what was going on there, and probably something similar is happening in Scandinavia. All right, so here is something that I will discuss in my monthly briefing, but it is a sign that indeed the appearance of tech leaders at the White House on September 4 was actually a kind of like surrender, or these people defected to the White Hats, to the Earth Alliance side, and that the deep state has lost. So I will talk about Google admitting censorship under the Biden administration, and restoring the accounts of YouTube's users that were banned or censored for free speech. I'll be talking about that in relationship to this war against between the deep state and the white hats and what the implications are. All right, so here is a message, just one of the many kind of stories dealing with Three-Eye Atlas. And again, this is one of the stories I'm going to dive deeper into in the monthly briefing. But in short, Three-Eye Atlas, there are multiple explanations. So far, I'm working on an article. I'll probably do a commentary on Three-Eye Atlas. And so far, I'm tracking essentially 10 explanations for it. There are 10 explanations coming from multiple sources. And so we really don't know what it is, or as I was suggesting, that there are 10 explanations for it. And so, there's no consensus. Many explanations, from being the mundane explanation of comet, no one I think of any great significance is saying that. They're all saying it's a craft, a spacecraft of some kind. But who's behind it? That is the big question. And so in the monthly briefing, I'll talk about that and talk about it more in my upcoming Exopolitics commentary. All right, so on September 25, which was my birthday, so thank you to all of you who sent me birthday wishes. I did actually go to Bimini Island in the Bahamas. This was a birthday gift from my wife, Angelica, and I got to hang out with dolphins for 5 days, Atlantic bottlenose dolphins and also spotted dolphins. And it was a wonderful experience, and I have a few more photos that I can share with you shortly. Okay, here's a interview I did with Elizabeth Hancock. And Elizabeth is a British-based researcher, and she has done extensive research on humanity's DNA origins, extraterrestrial intervention, and secret societies. So she's done a lot of work. She herself is a very talented, let's just say, intuitive, able to have communications with extraterrestrials, get information. She focuses on the importance of heart intelligence in making sense of a variety of subjects dealing with humanity's origins and extraterrestrial interventions. So I think that is very, very important that people tune in to their heart intelligence to be able to discern, because I think that is ultimately what we need to do, because there's no one explanation for anything. As I was saying, I'm tracking Three-Eye Atlas in terms of what people are saying out there, trying to make sense of the different explanations, and I'm tracking approximately 10. And of those 10, many sound persuasive. There's some overlap, but you need to kind of like use the heart intelligence to be able to decide what is more likely to be the case with Three-Eye Atlas. Okay, so here's something from Uri Geller, which I thought was very important to share. He believes that the general public is being gaslighted to believe that the drones or UFOs buzzing airports in Europe are Russian drones, and that war hawks and the deep state-controlled legacy media are desperately trying to expand the Ukraine war to NATO territory. So this is covering the drones buzzing airports in Scandinavia that I've already mentioned. And Uri Geller, who's a very talented, intuitive, psychic. In fact, in the 1970s, he really got a lot of attention in the United States. And he's saying that these are, in fact, not connected at all with Putin. And I think that, and Russia, and that is exactly right, that more and more people in Europe and in the United States are waking up to the fact that the European leaders are trying desperately to expand the war in Ukraine. And that is something that more of the general public are realizing and just not wanting to have anything to do with that. All right, so here is an interview I did with JP update number 50. This is going to be covered in the monthly briefing later today. So I'm not going to talk at length about this now, other than say that this was just the very first interview with JP where he is unmasked. So that is definitely something for the something to note, that JP is now doing interviews unmasked, and this is the very first interview he has done while unmasked. All right, so here we get to this meeting of U.S. flag officers at the U.S. Marine Corps Quantico Base in Virginia. And there's multiple explanations for what is going on here. Now, many believe that this is just part of the rebranding of the Department of Defense as the Department of War and reducing the overall number of 4-star generals. I think that there's a deeper reason for why they were summoned there, that what they were told publicly. I mean, people are aware of President Trump and Pete Hegseth giving the assembled generals and admirals, over 800 of them, a kind of pep talk about why wokeism is bad in the military and so forth. But they were also given classified operational briefings dealing with their respective sphere of operations and what they can expect to happen over the next year or so. And I think this is where we're going to get into the really kind of interesting parts of what it is that these people were told, these flag officers were told. And again, this will be in the monthly briefing today. I will be going into depth into what I believe these generals were told about what's really going on, what's coming, and why it was that they were summoned and it was so important for them to be there in Virginia. So if you want to hear the backstory, then the monthly briefing later today. Okay, so Jean-Charles Moyen, he has been pretty quiet over the last few months, and that's because he's been working on a new documentary. It's going to be the third in his series of Starseed Revelations, and he's going to be sharing all his evidence about extraterrestrial contact and space arc experiences and past life memories in Japan. So that's we're going to be doing an interview very soon, in probably another week or so, and then that will be released on October 23, which is the premiere of the English version. But right now, if you can speak Japanese, then you can watch the Japanese version, which is available online. Okay. All right. So again, this is the interview I did with JP. That's been released on all media platforms. All right. So here is a channeling from the GFL Station by Dave Akira, or Valia, who is a Pleiadian emissary, according to Dave Akira. And I find the GFL Station to be very inspirational in terms of a lot of the material they put out. I don't agree with everything, but the material I do resonate with is very persuasive. And Dave Akira in particular seems to be very accurate. I mean, he has released videos based entirely on his channeling communication that matches a lot of the research that I've done over the years. And here he says that the disclosure process is first of all going to begin with the disclosure that giants are part of our suppressed history. And I think it's very important that people are aware that not all giants were evil cannibals as depicted in biblical texts, that some were highly evolved spiritual masters who are very capable of helping humanity better understand different extraterrestrials and moving into a new golden age. So these giants that live in the inner earth, they are beings that eventually we're going to have to deal with as a surface civilization. And probably before, and I think it makes sense that that will probably have to happen before we start meeting with the off-world civilizations. And in fact, I had a vivid dream a couple of months ago of meeting these giants, these positively evolved giants. And it was kind of like a big surprise to me. But in this meeting, I was there and saw these giants in this area right next to a large crystalline city. And so in the dream, I was traveling between the two places and saw all of that. Now, it was just a dream. It was a vivid dream. I did record it in my dream diary, but I am aware that many people often start off that way, having dreams, and that then they in communication with physical communication with these beings. So whether I'm going to end up having physical communication with these giants, I don't know. I mean, I hope so. But definitely, I think the dream did signify to me that some contact was made because it was very vivid. Okay, so here is a story on Congressman Tim Burchett talking about 5 to 6 extraterrestrial civilizations, or at least civilizations living under the water. So there is a video. I think I showed the video of Tim Burchett in a previous week in review where he talked about this. So so Tim Burchett has got on the public record, talked about 5 to 6 underwater civilizations. I did an interview on Redacted, and that interview has been picked up by a number of international newspapers, including the Daily Mail of England. And this is, I think, a way in which a lot of this information often spreads, that people are now aware of the possibility of these civilizations. And in the interview I did on Redacted, I talked about ORTEC, which is the Atlantic Undersea Technical and Evaluation Center, and that's where they test all of their advanced maritime technologies. That's a Navy-run facility out of the Bahamas, which is was nominally under the control of Britain, but the Bahamas was given its independence, and ORTEC has been there ever since, and now pays rent to the Bahamian government. Very, very interesting. And in this interview I did on Redacted, I talked about JP and Jean-Charles Moyen's experiences in an underwater city somewhere in the area near this ORTEC facility. Okay, so here are some of the photos I mentioned of me swimming with the dolphins in the Bahamas, in Bimini. So very interesting. Bimini is also... So here's some photos I took that were taken of me swimming with the dolphins in Bimini, or just off the Bimini Island in the Bahamas. And it's very interesting that there is also this location just right there at Bimini Island, which is associated with Atlantis. So very interesting to be swimming in these waters that are linked in some way with Atlantis. And apparently this Bimini Island was once part of the Atlantean mainland when the oceans were about 100 to 300 foot lower, which is why the Bimini Road is currently underwater at the moment. Okay, here's an interview with Jelaila Starr where she says UFO disclosure has been slowed down to prevent civil war, and she talks about the Charlie Kirk assassination and says that that's kind of like an echo of when there was an assassination of a prominent leader in another planet that was going through a grand experiment. And so she thinks that UFO disclosures being slowed down deliberately just to kind of like prevent a civil war breaking out because of the extent to which these black programs have gone rogue and have been doing all sorts of gruesome experiments all over the world. And so very interesting information about how transhumanism, artificial intelligence led to a civil war on another planet that was kind of like at a similar technological stage as the Earth, and that the goal, and we are being helped by different extraterrestrials to go through a similar development cycle, but without breaking out into civil war, and that the Charlie Kirk assassination is connected with that, because in that earlier world, the prominent leader of one side was assassinated. We know here in the United States, President Trump was almost assassinated. Charlie Kirk was assassinated, but that hasn't led to civil war. It's led more or less to kind of like a revival of, say, Christian values, which I think is what Charlie Kirk really stood for. So, I mean, some good has come out of that. Here's some ET humor, Billionaire Star Trek, well worth watching. I just out of interest of time, I'm going to skip over this, but Billionaire Star Trek, it's a classic from Saturday Night Live when they used to do comedy. Okay, here is some scenarios that I am going to go into depth as to what it was that the 800 plus flag officers were really summoned to the US Marine Corps base. So I go into some of these scenarios. The fourth one is just a joke, just some humor, but definitely we're going to be looking at the secret war against the deep state Satanists, Three-Eye Atlas revealing itself as a giant spacecraft, and return of former Mars colonists to our solar system. So those are three explanations that I think are probably close to what the real reason was for the convening of this meeting with 800 flag officers. All right, so this is something that I will definitely be discussing at length in the monthly briefing. I think it's a very, very important story. This AI-generated video featuring Donald Trump talking about Medbeds that appeared briefly on his social media account on 10 p.m. on September 27th and then was taken down a few hours later. And I'll be talking at length about why this is so significant. And this is something that you can look forward to listening to. It's a really hot story, very important story, and I'll cover it in depth in the monthly briefing later today. And here you have JP doing a story about doing a story about this medbed leak by President Trump, and JP himself has been inside a medbed facilities, and this happened at Eglin Air Force Base on October 10, and so JP did a update on this on his YouTube channel, so where he talks about medbeds coming. So you could, if you haven't seen that, you can watch that, and JP talks about a little bit about what he experienced when he went inside one of these medbeds at Eglin Air Force Base. Here we have Elon Musk expressing his desire to live and die on Mars. And that's very interesting that he has this desire to die on Mars. I mean, why you would want to, it's kind of like, think 1700s and someone wanting to die in the Wild West. It's just like, really? You want to do that? You're missing all the creature comforts of life in modern Europe at the time, and you want to die in the Wild West. Well, you're kind of like, you can make a similar quip about wanting to die on Mars today using the kind of technologies that we have in the public arena. Life would be pretty bare and pretty challenging on Mars. But then again, if you're Elon Musk, you probably have the cream of the technology with you. Now, as far as where things stand, as far as Musk's Starship program is, he still has the ambition to fly to Mars as early as 2026, so next year. The first Starship mission, which will be unmanned, would fly to Mars, and then the first manned landings would happen in 2029. That's the earliest. Now, in contrast, NASA's Artemis program, which also envisages trips to the moon and manned trips to Mars, the Mars missions would occur in the 2040s. So that's a long time to wait. Right. So I did an interview on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. That was on October 2nd. So that was where I get to talk about a range of UFO-related topics. So that's available for you there on Coast to Coast AM. And here's a show summary where we talked about a number of things, some of which I've already discussed in this week in review. Okay, my interview with Lily Nova, where she gives her take on 3i Atlas, and she says it's a white hat operation working with a conglomerate of extraterrestrial races intent on a full disclosure. And interestingly, she identified that 3i Atlas was associated with a group of Lyran extraterrestrials who were disseminating frequency codes carrying the original divine DNA blueprint for humanity reaching its fullest potential. And she was also given information about this Saturn moon matrix that has been keeping us subjugated for centuries, and that these codes being disseminated by 3i Atlas that these Lyran extraterrestrials are associated with are in fact impacting the matrix that has kept us subjugated for a long, long time. And we also got to discuss some of her more recent video and photos of spacecraft of the different extraterrestrials she's working with. So it's not just that Lily has information from extraterrestrials who are telepathically communicating with her. She's also got photographic evidence, and that's always very important. I think it is very helpful in accepting a person's testimony if they also have photos of the beings that they are allegedly in communication with. All right, so here is a new whistleblower that came forward at the September 9 hearing that was held in the US Congress. And well, let's just play it. So it's a very short clip, 23 seconds. We get to hear a little bit about what Dylan Borland has experienced. So I'll play that for you now.
I have direct first-hand knowledge and exposure to crash recovery, reverse engineering, integration of technology into
redacted,
as well as the most important piece of technology on the planet, and it's not the craft themselves.
It would be the power source.
You can make that assessment yourself. I have direct...
Okay, so there he is, saying that he's got this direct first-hand knowledge of crash retrieval operations, reverse engineering, and some of the technology that was being worked on. Now, at the September 9 hearing in the House of Representatives, he talked about his first-hand knowledge of seeing a flying triangle and, of course, the crash retrieval programs. And he also, at the hearing, described the retaliation he faced as a UFO whistleblower. So that was very significant. So now I finish up. Later today at 3 p.m., we are having the monthly briefing, and this is where I get to go into depth into many topics that have happened over the last 4 to 6 weeks, and I will rank those topics. I'll be covering the top 9 stories for the last 4 to 6 weeks. I'll also be looking at the humor of the month, the most humorous piece of the best skit that I found out there concerning UFOs, exopolitics. And then we'll be talking about the geopolitical exopolitics that is happening around the world. So that's where I give my exopolitical take on geopolitical stories. And so that is all going to be happening today. That I'll talk for about an hour and a half on these various stories, covering those with video clips and analysis, and then we will have up to an hour of Q&A. So that's today, starting at 3 p.m. East Coast time, midday Pacific time, and that'll be roughly 8 p.m. UK time. So thank you for watching, and aloha.
You have been listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Join or start a conversation in the comments. Take the time to explore the vast library of best-selling books, webinars, and podcasts by Dr. Salla. Visit exopoliticstoday.com.